All right, welcome back. We have Tape Over the Traits, Episode 2, Bob Sturm, Dominic Robinson, and we are going again in Week 2. This is the episode known as the Cornerbacks episode because we are defensive heavy. In the Dallas Cowboys 2026 draft, we did the edge rushers in Episode 1. I was leading that charge. Dominic, the position near and dear. He's a DB guy by nature, and he is on top of DBs for us here. Corners today. I'll come back with linebackers next episode. He'll probably come back with safeties the episode after that, and back and forth we shall go until we are ready to do some drafting. Dominic, how we doing, baby?
Excited, man. Corner, near and dear to my heart.
Yep.
Excited about corners, excited about safeties. I actually worked the Under Armour All-American camp this weekend for the high school corners, the best high school corners in the country, and so I've been deep in the muck, in the secondary muck. So excited about kind of going through this group and kind of seeing where you're at on the guys that I've got and presenting my 5.
Okay, well, so what I will do before I get out of your way so I can hear your top 5 is just kind of tell people what we're looking for in cornerbacks. It is called Tape Over Traits, so we'll start there. We want to find great athletes because in the NFL level, you better be a great athlete if you're going to compete against some of the monsters that are going to line up against you. But the fact of the matter is that we assume you're a pretty good athlete to get to this level. We're talking about consensus board, top 100 guys, top 50 guys. So there is a baseline for all of these guys that say they are studs. They are better than you out there listening or us in here talking. I mean, they're unbelievable athletes and players. So we know that going in. So when we say a guy isn't athletic enough, it is all relative. So we'll start there. When I evaluate, I'm looking to see where is he best at this position. Is he a man guy? Is he a zone guy? Or preferred, when we're talking top 5, this guy can be in any scheme and be just fine. So we're not looking for guys that are only good with this group of teams. We're looking for a guy who can kind of do it all. He can cover very well. He can cover in press. He can also cover in off and soft. He can click and close. Then we start adding value for what else can you do? Are you a slot guy? Can you blitz? What is your ability against the run? Can you key and diagnose? Can you run down a play from behind with that type of speed? Are you a good tackler? Do you have a nose for the football? Do you have some sort of gift that's going to help our team get takeaways? So these are all kind of sub topics, Dominic, to the ultimate question of can you cover the guy who you are assigned to cover? And once we check that box, then we start looking for added value to say, no, he's much more than that. He can do this, this, and this as well. Or, that's kind of what he is, and what's so bad about that if he's good enough at that? So that's kind of an overview of this position. Then you talk about a Travis Hunter, who can also be a wide receiver for you. Or we talk about, Keyshawn Nixon, where he can lead the NFL in kick returns on the side or punt returns. So cornerback is a position that is one of the big 5, but there are outliers that can also do like Deion Sanders things or Charles Woodson things, or, you just start going down the list of all the different packaging of a cornerback and all the different scheme questions. And so it can get complex, but in the end, we just want to know if we put you up against Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams, are you going to be okay? Is that a reasonable summary of this position?
Yeah, and I think corner is really, really interesting in terms of like corner production. One is because interceptions is obviously a false positive. We know that from the Trayvon Diggs
Yep.
deal, and covering a guy, is there more value to a guy who gets a lot of interceptions in college than a guy who has 0 interceptions but literally no one ever catches the ball?
Right.
Also,
a false positive meaning, of course, that the best way to be great at defending is they don't even challenge you. And if you are getting interceptions, it's often because they're trying to target you. So there is the false positive. Just wanted to make sure everybody's up to speed with what you're saying.
Correct. And I could also look and go, well, he has 10 and he has 5, so the guy with 10 is better. Well,
right.
That would be a false positive. 10 is obviously more than 5,
right.
But 10 also doesn't mean that you are a better player.
That's right.
Or a better defensive back.
Yes.
But then also there's such a premium at turnovers, in guy that gets turnovers, like you just said. So that can be a real slippery slope because I want guys who get turnovers, but I also want better players.
That's right.
So,
yeah, and then the thing I didn't even mention that I should point out here is I am looking for dogs. So this is a position where there are many players in the league, and especially in college football, where they may not have that dog fully in them. They are great athletes. They can play corner, but they would rather not tackle. They would rather not compete harder when the going gets extra hard. And like I said, with athleticism, let me also say with being a dog. If you're in the NFL, you're a dog, okay? So you do have a warrior spirit in you. So again, this is all relative. There are guys that would absolutely saw off their arm to beat you, and then there are other guys that kind of enjoy Fridays and Saturdays in the league because they get to live that life, and Sunday is just what they do to fund that life. And so it's all relative, but when I'm looking for my guy, I might actually raise it a letter grade or two if I think he's a warrior out there on the corner. I want a guy who wants to get in on plays where he's tackling and maybe even messing up a dude who isn't his guy. He's just coming over there to fly in and help his team win. And then you got guys like Peanut Tillman who are literally having a term named after them because they get the ball so often. So Antoine Winfield, not Antoine Winfield Jr., who's a heck of a player, but his dad was one of those guys who I thought loved run support as much as he loved covering guys, and these are the guys that really attract me at times, and maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree from time to time, but if I got warriors on my roster, especially at the glamour positions, then I've got a hard football team like some of those top 49ers teams where they will all go to war with you, and they don't care where. They'll play you in the parking lot sort of stuff. So that's the stuff I'm looking for, and I assume you are too.
Yeah, and so the other thing that can get tricky with evaluating this position is a college corner may play in a system where they play off coverage, for instance, for 70 to 80% of their snaps.
Yep.
And then you draft him, but you are a press coverage team. Maybe you play press quarters, maybe you play press man. And so you may go get a guy who is a quote-unquote first-rounder that's uncomfortable in press coverage, but he's been phenomenal in off coverage, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may watch a guy that just is dominant in college because he plays 70 to 80% press, but you need to be able to do them both at the NFL level. You cannot be there. There's no real position where maybe a pass rush edge where you can just be a all-out specialist anymore.
Right.
They just they'll find a way to exploit you in some way, shape, or form.
No
doubt. If you just play all off coverage, then I know that's what you're best at. I will put you in situations where you have to press.
Yep.
Or vice versa. And so that's these guys, the coordinators, now they're just so smart. They're so sharp. So you can get some sort of tricky evaluations because you may evaluate a guy on all of the tape you have on him, but you just don't have enough in whatever, technique that you prefer, your coordinator prefers. Or you fire your coordinator, you don't even know, and you go get the player, similar to with the Cowboys, have a new coordinator coming in, And, had they have already committed to certain secondary players that don't fit, his scheme, you may have a really good player that doesn't perform or produce at the level that you want because the technique that he's comfortable playing.
This is a position where there are between 20 and 30, often closer to 30 players taken in every NFL draft. You never have enough corners. You always should grab an extra corner because your roster is going to need them over the course of the season. And now in this age where we have 11 personnel and 10 personnel, you're going to need 3 or 4 corners on the field at the same time. This has changed over the course of history. When we were little kids, a team might have 2 corners and then a third one that could, be depth. But now you better have 5 that you feel good about when you head. So that's why in the draft, everybody gets pushed up the board. Corners will go early. And what we're trying to do here is identify each of our favorite 5. I have definitely not looked at 30 of these guys. I've looked at closer to 10, and I anticipate I'll get to 12 or 13, but I got to keep moving, and I can't get to all of them. But I'm anxious to hear your top 5 and then see how it compares with my list because I usually trust your eyes better than mine in this position.
Yeah, and just really quick before I get to my 5, I do want to point out some other false positives or sort of tricky things in terms of evaluations with corners that, this position is probably missed more than any other position aside from quarterback. Quarterback is a little bit different because there's only one, and it's very obviously, when that happens, and they're always taken early. But cornerback, straight line speed, 40 times. Straight line speed gives you very little advantage at cornerback. You have to be able to see. Your eyes have to be good. Your processing has to be good. Not only seeing it, but seeing it, then processing it, and then going and doing the thing, whatever movement is called for it. So straight line speed, that obviously when you're running in a straight line, you don't have to think, you don't have to process, and where your eyes are not important. So a guy running really fast can help, but it's not what creates a good cornerback. Winning in press. There will be very, very, very physically talented players in college that can just play press coverage, and they're better athletes than the guys they go against. So when you watch the tape, if they live in press, I'm not saying that you run away, but you have to be able to play some sort of off coverage because we have to disguise and show that we are not in man coverage sometimes when we are in man coverage. And if you are in press, you are typically in man, and if the offensive coordinator and the offensive players know what coverage you're in, you will get exposed. So a guy that's just dominant in press man coverage in college does not always translate. And then the last thing is you get away with a lot more grabby coverage in college than you do at the NFL level.
That's right.
You talk about athleticism, you have to be an absolute freak athletically because every rule is slanted towards offense winning.
Yep.
So you can't be grabby. So guys, you'll see some grabby wins. If you're seeing a bunch of grabby wins, that's a red flag when you're watching the tape.
No doubt.
Because
and it's guys
you'll get away with a lot of stuff in college that there was a guy that I played with that you may be familiar with, Batman Carroll. It was a Packer.
Yeah, he sure was.
And they put boxing gloves on. They tried everything. So I was the number 1 corner in my class, and Batman was number 2. And so with me being Robinson, somebody wanted us to go together. We were supposed to be Batman and Robin.
Nice.
I can't remember where it's Arkansas. Where did he end up going? Did he go to
Arkansas? I believe. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so that guy was a really, really good athlete, but he was grabby. He was really grabby, and that ended up ending his pro career a lot sooner than it should have because he was a really good corner, but he couldn't help it. And so he got away with it in college, and it made him a first-round pick. And so he's a millionaire, I'm sure, and I'm sure he's not. There's no complaints about his career, but he was never what he probably could have been or should have been, and that was a red flag that you could have seen prior.
Right.
To him getting to the NFL.
No doubt.
So
okay, and with that, we're also looking for arm length. We're looking for, honestly, just strength in your ability up and press. But let's not get too far lost in the weeds, and let's not make this a 3-hour podcast. So let's hear your top 5 corners and see how it compares with mine.
All right, so number 5 from San Diego State, Chris Johnson. Fluid athlete, explosive. He's got adequate size, good recovery speed. He's a little slender, which will makes you worry a little bit for him being vulnerable at the top of routes, push-offs, things at the break point. But I really love his athleticism. He's got a really high athleticism score. And I just, to me, he's a good player for the mid to late second round, in the 40 range. So that's who I have at 5.
Yeah, he's my number 4, and I liked him a lot as a zone guy, especially. I liked his vision, his awareness. I honestly, from the tape, you were like, how's this guy going to test? And then he tested through the roof. Yep. So he has really easy athleticism. He has great feet, and I kind of like how he activates downhill and goes to blow stuff up in front of him. And that's a big metric for me is the BSU metric, which is blow S up, and if you're willing to throw your shoulder in there. And he's not off the charts there, but he's very good. And so I didn't know what I'd think of him, but I ended up liking him quite a bit. So I put him at number 4.
Okay. At number 4 for me, I have Colton Hood from Tennessee. Good size and length. Going back to the conversation we just had about physicality and potential holds, this guy and press coverage, he is a very good press coverage guy. He stalls receivers really well on their releases and get-offs, and the guys really struggle in that area against him, which could also be a potential red flag for holds. He does play very physical, and the NFL just doesn't allow it the way that they do. I worry about him a little bit in terms of his hips and sort of his consistency where what I was talking about earlier, as far as it's not just seeing it, but seeing it, diagnosing, and then knowing or being able for your brain and body to connect and go do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about having if you're a zone heavy guy that, from a coordinator standpoint, that asks their cornerbacks to read a lot of things and kind of see formations and play coverages based off of that, I worry about him in this sense. But in terms of, I liked him in that same range as Chris Johnson, where he's not your first round, early second round, but I thought he was a really good player, and I have him as the number 4 corner.
Okay, so for me, my notes were I wanted to like him a little bit more than I did. I'm with you on great athlete, kind of looks like he can do man or zone. I did not see the run support I was hoping for, and again, we all rank that importance differently. I remember Marcus Peters.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, so Marcus Peters, I remember writing him up from the Washington Huskies, and I thought, okay, here's a guy that doesn't tackle at all, does not help his run game at all, and I can't stand that because, like I said, I'm looking for Antoine Winfield. And then Marcus Peters gets to the league, and he has like 8 interceptions as a rookie, and he's like an all-pro. And honestly, it kind of taught me, thinking about him, thinking about Deion Sanders, that run support is important to certain people. like me, and I think some head coaches and probably some DCs, but it's not a deal breaker across the board. And that's like a bias of mine that I've got to get past, and maybe I never will because, I'm just sitting at my desk in my office watching football. So what, if I want to be stubborn about it, I suppose I can. But what it means to me is I'll miss on some good guys who are really good at playing corner, but they don't do that extra thing I'm looking for, which is get up there and set a good edge and take it personally when they're running wide runs right at me because they don't think I've got the spine interest, like Trayvon Diggs, right? And this, I feel like I'm a hypocrite too because I really liked Trayvon Diggs for most of his career, but at the end, teams were kind of making fun of him by running at him and seeing that he, when he sees a running play come at him, and you know this because you played the position, but I imagine there's a mental thought that fires in your head of either, oh, good, or oh, no.
Or self-preservation.
Here comes Derrick Henry at me, and man, I'm already this already hurts. So Colton Hood's very, very good. I left him off my top 5 just because I value that run support, but there's no question he's a really good player, and maybe he's the next guy that I miss on a little bit of this position because I make run support and frankly the interest in violence such a high priority in my cornerback. So I left him off, and I'll tell you who
here's where when you say miss. Here's where that word gets a little tricky because it's not necessarily that you miss. It's if you had a team and you had a scheme that was going to highlight either that ability or lack of ability,
right?
Then he would fit and it wouldn't be a miss. And that's where this comes in is like if you have a Dion, you got to make sure that Dion's able to do Dion things. And this is where there's such a disconnect sometimes between front office and coach. And that's why that's so important that everybody has to be aligned because you go get a player that doesn't fit what I like to do, and he might still be very valuable to someone else in a different system.
Here's another one.
You got to go get a guy that fits. And so him not wanting to tackle or being interested in tackling, you can still get great value out of him if you can scheme, that into him or away from him. But if you can't do that or you have a coach that can't do that, then that's where you end up, completely – that's where the miss happens.
Well, and here's another thing. Trayvon Diggs was projected in his draft to go where CeeDee Lamb went. And I remember that the Cowboys had their list, and then CeeDee Lamb fell to them, and they're like, well, heck with our list. CeeDee Lamb is too good. Like, we thought he would go. We thought he'd be gone in the top 5, certainly in the top 10, and here we are like at 17, and CeeDee Lamb is in our laps. We have to take him. Well, who were they going to take if they didn't take him? As I recall that year, Trayvon Diggs was on that short list, and I think Calebon Chason, the edge from LSU, a couple other guys. And then Diggs was still available at 51. So when I'm trying to put a valuation on these guys, no in the first round, yes in the second round, it's the same player. He has the same traits, same faults, same positives, but now we're just talking about here it is at a high price, and then here he is at a price.
Cost-benefit analysis.
Yes,
exactly.
Here he is at a price that I actually can deal with what he doesn't do and focus on what he does do. So that's that. My guy at number 5 is different. Should I spill the beans or?
No, let's wait.
Okay,
and
you go ahead. You go to 3 then.
Yeah. So 3, I have his teammate, Jermod McCoy.
Okay.
Now, this was where it gets a little funky because he was hurt, and his tape in 24 was very good. And what's interesting about him is his tape, the things that I would say were the positives on his teammate, Colton Hood, are sort of the negatives for him and vice versa. I think this is a reliable tackler. I think he's a physical run defender. I think he's very good in click and close and off man.
Yep.
And cover 2 stuff. He's good with high-low. He looks like he's instinctual, where it's like with Colton Hood, it was sort of the opposite. More physical, better in press. I don't know how good he is in reading and diagnosing and off man and clicking, closing, space when he's playing off. So, so that's who I had at number 3. Some people have him as high as the best corner in this draft. And I can get there. I can get on that train maybe. I just love my other 2 guys way too much. And having recent tape on them. And then my son going against both of the next 2 guys, where I couldn't help but to be biased towards the next 2. But I could see him at 1, against guys. And then the last thing I'll say is he struggled against Jeremiah Smith, who doesn't,
right.
And then Andrew Armstrong from Arkansas. So. Those things give me a little bit of pause, and then obviously him not playing in the 25 season.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you're looking at 2024 tape, but boy, was that tape good. He's so smooth,
it was
so
really,
talented,
really
disposition that I like. Press coverage is excellent. Big-time ball skills, and just, he can recover if he gets beat for a second. The click and close is great. Young, very talented. So when I was watching him, I was thinking, this is my favorite corner. Now, he got passed by one guy, but I said, this might be the best player. He might have an all-pro ceiling. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I published my evaluation, and I got a call, and he said, yeah, I don't know, man. And what I got was basically the report that 2026 might be a full redshirt year. And that the knee, he didn't perform at the combine, and the whispers. Now again, please take this for what it is. This is not me reporting it. This is me not saying it's verified. This is me telling you that somebody who would know got caution flags out that we're going to need to really get our doctors to examine to put a first-round grade on a player like this, because, the ACL was January of 2025. It should be fixed by now. We're looking at 14 months, and by all reports, it's not there yet. And so they might have to go in and do something again, which could mean a full redshirt year, which means almost every single team would take him off their first-round board. So I love him.
Yeah.
I just don't know if the guy I watched on tape lives here right now.
Right. And that's where I struggled. I didn't even know if I wanted to put him in the 5.
Yes.
Because that's actually what I felt was he's not a first rounder.
Yeah.
And most of these guys, I think, could slip into the first round or early second round. That's sort of what we're doing when we're ranking the top 5. So
that's right.
He may be the only one of all of our top 5s that doesn't go in the first 2 rounds.
I think
everyone else we rank is going to go in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
and he might not. So I thought about leaving him out, but there was no one that I loved at the 6, 7, and 8 spot, so I left him in there because I do love his 24 tape, and I do see where he could be, like you said, he could be the best corner in this draft.
And it can still happen.
And it might not be 4 years from. It might be 4 years from now.
It could be, and if you're a rebuilding team, and you don't feel urgency for 2026, that might be a guy you take at 35. Early in the second round, 37, I don't know, and say, we think this could be a bonus first rounder for us.
Yeah, if you're the Rams and you just stole the kid from the Chiefs, and you're like, hey, we just got our guy. We're just go get a guy for cheaper and get a first rounder in the late second or third round.
So he's my second best based on tape, but I will caution people that I used red ink, which says before we can lock this in on draft weekend, we're going to need to see him at his pro day, and it has been predicted to me that there may not be a pro day, and this might be one of those blind faith draft day weekend decisions by a team where they have no workout from him at all. They're just going on, the belief that this can work out for them. So again, I hate to put that out there, but I do think it's kind of our job to at least let people know that if your team takes him, there are some fairly significant red flags right now that could get resolved, but they need to be resolved before anybody talks about a top 15 pick on Jermod McCoy.
Yep. At 2, so the next 2 guys I love. I only put him at 2 because I'm hoping that he could slide to the Cowboys and somebody else will take him or take the 1 before him.
Okay.
If
that's your tactic, you can't say that's your tactic because they could be listening. But okay.
If the Cowboys didn't have 12 and they could go get him, I don't know. I think he'll get to 12 for sure. But anyways, is it Avieon
Terrell?
Avieon Terrell from Clemson. Again, he's in the ACC and he plays against Florida State, so I've seen a lot of him. He's not a transfer. He's one of the few guys who are not a transfer. He committed to Clemson out of high school, and he played his whole college career there.
Yep.
One of the few players who didn't regress at Clemson this year. A lot of talent at Clemson that just did not materialize. Excellent long speed, nimble feet, fluid hips. Backpedals and turns well. Can play press. He's patient. He leaves a little space in his man coverage, so pushing off and sort of contacts at the break point are very low for him. He doesn't have a lot of them. That also can leave you in positions where you don't grab, or you're not grabby. So the sort of the flags, getting those pass interference or holding calls at the NFL level shouldn't be an issue. He's a little smaller on the smallish side, so you may guys may want to physically he may be physically outmatched at the NFL level. And then one of my favorite things is probably 8 forced fumbles since 2024.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy for a corner.
Yeah.
That's a lot of forced fumbles. Like, that's an absolute gift. Like, this guy has a talent, a gift. You don't watch. I mean, again, a lot of times we watch this tape and you get into sort of this trance when you're watching tape. It's just like same play over and over and over. Where when you watch him, it's not like any other corner's tape, in that his attempts at forced fumbles, his production to be able to get the football out, it's just different. It's very, very good, and it's what I talk about when I say, like, this guy has some make you sit up.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some make you sit up. There's a couple plays where you're like, okay, that is special, that is different. I just love him at the 20 spot for the Cowboys if he can make it that far. I don't know. I don't really study, the whole draft in terms of teams, where needs are. If this is a cornerback need year, I guess every year is kind of that way now because you need 3 really good ones now. You got 3 starters, so I hope he can slide to 20. When I do the mock drafts, he's getting there. And so I love him. I think he's great. And it would be he just barely falls out of that 12 spot for me.
Okay.
He's really close to wanting to take him at 12, but I think you can trade back and get some real value there. And so that's what I would want to do, is go back and go get Messidor a little bit later and go get Terrell, and now you're really cooking with gas.
Man, you gave me a lot to think about here, because I it's possible I picked some bad games, and listening to you talk about them, I feel like I screwed up here. The size thing bothered me a little bit. He does seem to get big brothered a little bit out there against some of the bigger guys, and so I start freaking out and I start thinking about like Deron Bland, and maybe that's extremely unfair, but I didn't see enough testing at the combine to say no, this guy's at a different level than Bland. He probably is, but with Bland. Man, I hate to put this on Terrell because they may be wildly different players and I just see it poorly. But with Bland, I see a guy who's too small to play outside and not physical enough to be a big-time slot. Mm-hmm. And so, like, even hearing, CP talk about what he wants for his slot, he wants like a corner safety hybrid. Like a corner – cover like a corner, hit like a safety. Yeah.
A slide safety that plays physical. Yeah.
And I just couldn't get there with him, but
he's not there. Yeah. No, but and I will say, like probably 2 or 3 years ago, he actually is an inside slot safety. a slot corner. I saw some of that in his film.
Yeah.
The problem is now offenses have countered and they're going 12 and 21.
Yes.
And so now you used to be able to have a corner nickel, and now you need to have a safety nickel, big nickel.
Right.
And he's not that. He's definitely not that. So he fits the old nickel mold, not what we're transitioning into.
Yeah, so then I try not to marry like a weight to that type of player because I often think it's more of a disposition and a body armor and just 100%.
The way 100%.
The way you play. At the same time, if you're closer to 180 than you are to 200, each pound does start to wear on me a little bit. Like 182 is a no. 185 is a rarely. 188, and so again, we're talking about a couple pounds here, like my lunch. So we're not talking about the end of the world. So I need to look at him again. I need to 8 forced fumbles. When you say that, you're describing the type of player I'm looking for, and yet when I see him, I'm just like, I wish he had a little more D'Angelo Pons in him, who's actually a smaller player who looks like he is a dog that's broken off his leash and just looks like a savage out there who we could talk about at some point, but he's that dude wants a street fight. So I'm going to go back and look at Terrell again. I did not put him at number 2 on my list, and there's another. So far I've got 2 guys that aren't even on your list, but I'll save them to hear your number 1.
Love it. Okay, and then number 1, Mansoor Delane.
Yes.
From LSU, 40 career starts, 0 penalties, 0 touchdowns.
Jeez.
Just 2 20-yard receptions allowed in 2025.
Holy heck.
In the SEC. Come on, man. Like this is a player. Light feet, loose hips, easy change of direction, swivel and break. Out of a speed turn, with minimal lag, fluidity, technical polish, mirrors complex routes, off coverage, press coverage, sticky man, zone coverage.
Yep.
Yes, you name it, he's got it. The negatives would be little short arms. Which reduces his tackle radius, and he's sort of average size, 10 percentile in arm length. So, you're not looking at, and then, this is tape over traits, but his linear speed is probably not, he's not going to be the fastest guy you have on your team. And that may scare some guys. It doesn't scare me because I watch tape, and when I say all those things all those positives I said were enough for me, so I love him. I hope he goes, before the Cowboys spot so that the Cowboys can get Terrell. But yeah, that's my number 1.
Okay, so you wouldn't be all over Delane at 12? Or is that are you just saying that's unrealistic?
I just don't think he'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that would be the dream for me is
If
I get this guy.
If I could get him at 12, I go get him. I just don't think he'll get there.
I don't think so either, especially given that the Chiefs have lost 2 corners, and it just he probably doesn't get out of the top 10. But I see a CB1 in just about every way. He gets to the ball, even if it isn't his guy. He sees the whole field. He helps. He has easy athleticism. He anticipates. Just the type of corner I love. I was blown away. I didn't know he was a Virginia Tech kid for a couple years and only played at LSU that final season. And so you're like, okay, is this guy one of these top LSU corners, or is he a guy that took a check to play there 1 year and just put the uniform on? I'm like, no, this guy's a legit big time LSU corner who happened to only play there 1 year, and I'm completely sold. Just the way he's so calm and composed, and his first game as an LSU player was at Clemson, and so you would think if ever there was a time where you would be jumping around and extra hyper and maybe even exhausted midway through the first quarter because you're so amped up that you've actually depleted all your energy, it would be that game. And he's out there, and it doesn't even look like his heart is above 70 beats per minute. He's just as chill as can be and confident and just doing his job. So, yeah, Delane, especially with McCoy's question marks, Delane's the best corner in the draft. Okay, so I want to tell you about 2 guys on my top 5, and then we'll get out of here unless you want to talk about anybody else. And I also want to say there's a couple down the list that I do think are slot candidates that I haven't spent enough time on. And trade in Stukes from Arizona and Keontae Scott from Miami are 2 guys I love at first pass, but I haven't been in there enough, but I don't believe either are candidates for top 5. I just wanted to say, if you're looking for that star position, that hybrid corner, from what the people I talk to in the league, that they do talk about kind of keep an eye on them in day 2 for that type of role. But the 2 guys that made my top 5 that did not make yours, so I want to hear your thoughts on them. At number 5, I have Keith Abney from Arizona State. And I just liked his balanced versatility. I think he can go inside and out. I do need to confirm, the testing a little bit, but I liked his disposition. I liked the way he played, just his overall game. It seemed like he had a lot of value, maybe not spectacular in anything, but really solid across the board. And so I put him in a top of the second round type area for me, and I'm curious if that's too rich for you.
It is not. No, this is a good player. And if you have time, you may want to go back and watch the 2024 game against Texas.
Yeah.
Phenomenal game.
Okay.
He was very sticky versus, obviously, Texas has some very good wideouts and does a very good job offensively. Definitely his best game.
Okay.
The guy's a player, though. This is a player. He's right outside. He was probably 6 or 7 for me. He's right outside the 5. And, love him. I think he was called for 7 penalties. He's got shorter arms. He didn't test well. T-Mac ate him up, which T-Mac's the first round. He's a top 8 pick. So that's not too much of an indictment, but that's what pushes you to the end of the second round and not the front end of the second round or first round.
And then at number 3,
when the elite guys beat you, you fall out of that conversation.
All right, and then at number 3 for me, and maybe this is my bias where I like Legion of Boom type corners. I fell in love with Brandon Cisse from South Carolina, who transferred over from NC State.
I knew you. As you're talking, I'm like, Bob's going to bring up this South Carolina kid for sure.
Yeah, I think when you're getting in on Cisse, there's a path to development here. He's still young. He still is figuring it out, but he competes really hard, so that's big for me. He's outside only. So he's not going to move inside, and frankly, I don't think he's great with the little Cole Beasleys of the world underneath. So they're going to try to go at him with underneath routes and try to prove that he can change direction at the elite levels of the NFL. But he's looking for the ball. He takes runs at him personally. Where he's trying to punish a running back, which again, hopefully your body can hold up playing that style. But I think with his vertical explosion and his 2025 tape, this guy to me was even right there, kind of their tags touching with the Johnson kid for that 3-4 spot on my list. So I like Brandon Cisse a lot.
Yeah, good player. Definitely, obviously, all these guys are.
Yeah.
What I would say why he wasn't in my top 5 was, I was an offensive player also,
Yep.
so I look for guys that are playmakers. I love obviously, Deion Sanders was my muse. Travis Hunter is obviously, these are my guys. My secondary guys are guys that seem to get the ball in their hands and do something with it. He's just not a playmaker. It's two career interceptions only. But you're right. He brings it in run support. This is a long arm guy. He's got adequate size. He's pretty twitched up. In terms of like his movement capabilities are very strong. But yes, I don't see him, being an inside guy. And if he were, then this conversation would probably be a little bit different. And you're looking at, probably a top 5 guy. So good, really good player.
Last guy we should talk about, then we'll get out of here, is Indiana's D'Angelo Pons.
Yeah.
I absolutely love him. Think he's great. Warrior heart, all that type of thing. Playmaker, finds the ball, takes everything personally. I just can't get past 5'9"-ish, maybe 5'10" if he's on heels, and like 182. There's an exception to every rule. I would hesitate saying that he is that exception, but I would also hesitate saying he isn't that exception. The Indiana tape from the pick 6 to start the Oregon game to, go anywhere you want on that Indiana tape. D'Angelo Pons is from Miami, and I hate to say that you can tell a guy's from Miami just by watching him play, but I feel like you can tell he's from Miami, and I love him. I just can't talk myself into going too high on him, but there's a price where I would be excited to run to the podium.
100%. I loved him. Maybe my favorite corner, not in terms of ranking, but like my favorite guy that I hope to see succeed. This guy is a hell of a player to watch, severely undersized, and only 26 snaps at nickel. So you're worried that, hey, if I do bring him and he's my second or third best guy, I don't end up using him at all. Again, going back to the cost-benefit analysis.
Yep.
But in the third round, if I need a corner and I got a little extra cash hanging around, I'm throwing it at this guy easily. I love him. He's one of the guys that will probably play for 12 years. And I think teammates love him. I think he makes your whole program better. These guys like him, they're guys you got to have on the roster. I just can't pay you first or second round money.
That's right.
That's it. But I love him, and I think he's a really, really good player that he makes teams better. And obviously, the style he plays, he should add to your special teams. So there is something there. He does bring value. Like I said, that's more than what you actually watch on tape. So.
Well, these guys who are small, who get attacked by the opposing coaches, who see the tape and they say, okay, we're going at this guy the whole game. What we got to remember is these guys have been attacked since like middle school. They're used to it. They take it fine. Bring it on. They left him alone with Jeremiah Smith for a lot of that Ohio State game, and it didn't go great for him. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Jeremiah Smith is a beast, and he'll be a top 5 guy, maybe a top 1 guy very, very soon. But what I loved about Pons is he would get beat, and then he would get up and say, let's do it again. I bet you can't do it again. And it was just like a sadistic, masochist, view of short memory. Steve Smith, if he was a corner, it's just that mentality where you're kind of surprised he's not in the UFC right now, because that's that type of man in the arena type mentality that gets us all cooking a little bit. So anyway, shout out to Pons, and it's a fun corner class. There's a lot to like here. There's a lot of starters in this group, and I enjoyed your list, and I'm also challenged to go back and maybe look at a few of these guys a little more that I left off, because like I said, you're usually onto it here.
Yeah, I think what was our biggest disagreement was Terrell, right?
Yeah, and like I said, I get it. He just doesn't fit my eye, but maybe that's my eye's fault, because you're probably spot on, and there's nothing more important in the game of football than getting the football for a defense. I always like to say, if you're a defensive coordinator, are we going for takeaways, or are we trying to suppress explosive plays? And I realize in this cover 6, quarters world we live in, that teams are trying to take away explosives, but let's not kid ourselves. Turnover differential still runs the world. Exactly. And I guess the answer is both. You're trying to get both.
For sure. So next episode, we're on to the linebackers, huh?
Yes, sir. On to the linebackers.
And we already know from episode 1 that I've got Arvell Reese in there, and you won't, right? Are you going to still put him in there? No. Okay.
No. I'll keep him at edge. I think that's where he ends up. But I'm really excited about talking about these linebackers, because we got to have,
especially because the Cowboys just got an edge. Which you and I probably got to talk either off air, or maybe I can come on the Musers this week.
No doubt.
To talk about what they did, because are they going to go get another edge? Since they just got one, and he's a Packer, so I know you got enough time watching him. But yeah, I think there's a possibility that one of those 2 picks is going to have to be an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah,
now, especially now that they just got an edge. So
I would think so, but we'll see. We'll see how free agency goes in that direction as well. But moving to this defense, you probably can't have too many linebackers as well. All right, we'll do linebackers next time, and we appreciate you locking us in for episode 2 of Tape Over Traits.